Draining. Hi, this is Jill Reynolds with Braveheart Workshops, creating hope, health, and healing in 2021. And joining me today is our special keynote speaker that will be speaking at our event on March 12th, Dr. Laura Wood. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us today.
I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for asking, Jill.
Wonderful. Well, audience, I'd love for you to get to know Laura just a little bit more. So I'm going to share with you her bio. Dr. Wood is an associate professor at Lesley University in Boston, Massachusetts, and a much sought after speaker worldwide. She presents, supervises, and consults worldwide. Dr. Wood is a registered drama therapist, a board certified trainer, a licensed clinical mental health counselor, a licensed creative arts therapist, and a certified child life specialist. Dr. Wood was the past president of the North American Drama Therapy Association for 2 years, and she served for 4 years as an assistant professor and the clinical coordinator at Molloy College in New York, collaborating in launching an accredited program in clinical mental health counseling. She supported the start of a community wellness clinic. Prior to being a full time professor, Dr. Wood was the lead therapist at an eating disorder and trauma treatment center in the Midwest, where she facilitated individual group and family therapy. She also spent time working in pediatric hospitals with critically and seriously ill children and in assisted living with older adults. Her focus and research areas include the treatment of trauma, disassociation, eating disorders, attachment recovery, and grief and loss. More specifically, Dr. Wood is interested in how therapeutic theater can support individuals in various forms of recovery. She created the coactive therapeutic theater model with her colleague, Dave Mowers. Dr. Wood is engaged in an ongoing research and collaboration with various recovery communities, including persons with eating disorders, substance abuse, and aphasia. She sees clients in private practice and facilitates intensive healing retreats using drama therapy in her spare time.
And Jill is one of the Bravehearts is one of the organizations that I do some of those retreats with. Wow, you read the whole bio, like the whole long professional one. Thanks, Jill. That's a nice introduction.
Well, and she's only 21 years old, so I don't know how she's done it all.
If only I was still 21.
And you have a new addition in your life too that you've added on as part of your persona, don't you?
Yeah, yep. I'm guessing you're talking about my little one. Yes.
Yes, and you got a new little baby boy who's just gorgeous.
Little boy in the mix. That's a whole other conversation about healthcare and how we treat older mothers and we'll take that one for another time. But yes,
Well, I wouldn't call you an older mother yet, but anyway. Well, let's talk just a little bit about one of the things that just inspired me the most of Dr. Laura Wood is I myself was in treatment at Castlewood Treatment Center for my eating disorder back in 2013. And Dr. Wood would lead twice a week her drama therapy group and once a week her improv. And it was every patient in treatment's most favorite group. And I remember, Laura, one of the things as patients we had to do, and we had groups all day long. We had whiteboards in each group where the therapeutic team would give us assignments, and we'd put our name on the board when we were to share whatever that assignment was. Well, in Dr. Laura's expressive group, you'd put your name on the board when you made a decision in your recovery process that you wanted to do some drama therapy expressive work with Laura. Well, at the time I was in treatment, Laura, I remember there were like 15 other clients. And only in your group Did every patient have their name on the board? All the other groups, people were like, I don't want to be talking about body image today. I don't want to be talking about this or that. And they would be leery of putting their name on the board. But in your group, everyone put their name on the board. And as soon as they were done processing, because you'd go in order, they'd put their name at the top of the list again so they could get another session with you. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I think back fondly on that. Yeah, it was like the minute it was their turn to go, at the end of the group, people would go and like put their name back on the list again. But I think it speaks to the work also. So my work specializes in using the body and using theater and drama and parts of ourself, internal family systems work, as a way of exploring our stories. And something I'm going to be talking about in the virtual online event, Hope, Health, and Healing, is that our body is a tool that we all have been given that holds incredible wisdom, incredible healing medicine. And so what I love about the work that I do is that we use the body as a way of helping people find their own internal healing process. And that's what I'm really passionate about, and have built my life and my career around for the last 14 years, and hopefully for the next, however many years I'm gifted being here.
And why drama therapy? I know that when you and I spoke, and we can share with the audience, you did, if I recall, you did your internship in Chicago at Children's Hospital when children were dying of cancer, and you counseled the grieving parents. You started with grief counseling. So how did your career evolve, Laura, where you went from that of a younger therapist counseling very, very painful circumstances and evolving then into the eating disorder community and then advancing your degree to a doctorate degree in drama therapy?
So, actually, a couple of details in it. My internship was actually at Hackensack University Medical Center, where I was also doing the same work. I was working with terminally ill and critically ill, seriously ill children and their families. And my master's degree is in drama therapy at New York University. And I then moved to take my first job at University of Chicago doing similar work. Uh, and my PhD is in counseling and counselor education. And so the way I came to drama therapy is, I spent my life as an actor, when I was a child, and I moved a lot. And every time that I moved, the thing that was familiar to me was the theater. So the theater and theater kids are sort of always the same, even though they're their own unique people. It's like the stage looks the same, stage right, stage left, the curtains going up or the curtains going to the side, how you do a show, taking on role and character. And so the theater really became a home for me as I moved from place to place. And so I think it just made sense that I wanted to study theater in college. And while I was in college, 9/11 took place. And this was a really major transformational event for me. And so I walked around Manhattan the day after 9/11, and I was looking for anything, to do to help. And I've never seen Manhattan like this ever again. I mean, it was a ghost town. I used to say, like, at any moment I thought like a tumbleweed might like pass by me, because rightfully so, the city was traumatized and terrified. And so I went from Red Cross to Red Cross. I was going back and forth. So for those people who know, Manhattan, it's like I was going, from, east side to west side, east side to west side, going from, Red Cross to Red Cross. And, every time I would go to a Red Cross, they would say to me, well, like, are you a nursing student? And I would say no. And they would say, like, do you have any skills for training? And I would say no. I'm an acting student. And, they would sort of send me on my way. So I think, by the time I got to the third or fourth Red Cross, I think the woman sort of took pity on me. I mean, I think she saw that I was a bit lost. And, she asked me the usual questions. Are you a nursing student? Are you a medical student? No. And so she said, well, we have some trucks that need to be like filled up with items. Like, do you want to just go load trucks? And I was like, yes, I absolutely want to do that. And so I was, loading up the trucks and felt really good about that. It was giving me a purpose, giving me something to do in my body, right, to cope and deal with the situation. And then, things continued on the day after. If you remember, pieces of the tower were still falling, and I just happened to be there, sort of right time, right place, and they needed more volunteers to go down. And instead of going through their stack, they said, you're here right now. We need people right on the ground to like put eye drops in and to give out fruit and aspirin and water. Do you want to go? And so I said yes. And I got a badge, and they sent me down past the barricade, past all these barricades. And a lot of things happened down there, and I won't tell the whole story today for time, but I had an interaction with a firefighter that really dramatically changed my life, where he reflected to me that the thing that I was able to offer that day was listening. And that really struck me as a young person living in Manhattan, trying to find my way in the world. And so that stuck with me, this idea of listening, this idea of stories. And then there's another sort of seminal story I'll save for another time that also, again, moved me towards this idea of being in action and helping and supporting people when I was working in the deaf community as a medical interpreter. And that led me to thinking, oh, I want to put together theater and stories and drama and helping and healing. And I've made up a new profession. And I, went and Google didn't exist at the time, but I went and I looked it up, online, Ask Jeeves or something. And I found out that I had not created theater therapy, but it was called drama therapy. And there was a program at New York University. And so I started to shift my life, towards getting ready to be a drama therapist. And then when it, applied for the program and, was admitted, and that really changed my life, to the deep belief that I have that telling our stories, listening to stories, performing stories, exploring the way trauma and narrative is held in the body, is one profound way to make transformation in somebody's life.
And one thing I think, Laura, thank you that you taught me specifically and have taught those that were in treatment at eating disorder treatment was how important sharing your story connects the others in the room with their story on a much more expeditious way, because we connect those dots from someone else's life into our own life, bringing forward memories that could have been trapped from years ago. And so you always use the saying, your story is my story and my story is yours. Can you share just a little more about that? Because that's what this event, people are doing so many networking events right now and teaching events online. This event is not going to be that. This event is going to be much more experiential, with the leaders, the speakers, sharing story, and then you speaking on embodiment and doing some expressive around that. So could you share how story shares story to others for healing?
Yeah. So this comes from the work of Jacob Moreno, who's the father of psychodrama and actually the father of group therapy. And, without getting too academic on our listeners, the idea is that one person's story is everyone's story. And although each of us are going to have our own very unique way in which our stories play out, we're all shared in the human condition, and we can all see aspects of ourselves in other people's stories. And that when the group can warm up together and tell stories, we can find points of connection that take us to places that we didn't even think that we would go to. And this goes into sort of the neuroscience piece and mapping in the brain, how neural networks work, how we store memory and connect to memory. But, at its core, that we're brought together around common humanity. Yes, there are differences in the paths that each of us have walked. Yes, we have, major differences in our society around accessibility, what people have access to. Those things can't be denied, but on a human level, we can connect deeply in shared points of access into story. And so it's beautiful to watch groups together and take it deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yes, and I've just appreciated that. I'm also recovered with drugs and alcohol, and I remember one of my most favorite sayings, I've got a couple of them in AA, was look for the similarities instead of the difference in life. And I think that's the beauty of story, because when someone is sharing, if you're able to just sit back and, like you said, listen, engage, listen, take in story, and as the person shares story, look for the similarities in your own life instead of the differences.
Yeah.
Connect those dots, and magnificent healing will evolve inside of your body.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I would say listen for the similarities and honor the differences. And what I
Mm.
love about the group and the panel that you put together is we've got people from a lot of different walks of life, a lot of their own different identities that they're going to bring to the table. And I think that we're going to really create a space that that looks for the similarities and honors the differences, and really is about bringing people together in connection and community. Like at the core, we are animals, we're people, we need community and we need connection. And I think that this event is going to be just another offering out to the world. And I have no doubt that people who listen will be touched in some way, and probably in a way that they didn't imagine they would be.
Well, to transition a bit then, Laura, I know then in your career at one point then you transitioned into the eating disorder community at a treatment center in St. Louis. At that time, it was called Castlewood. It's now changed its name to Alsana. And while being employed there, you were one of your peers, who also was a therapist, um, Richard Schwartz, was also on staff there. And as he was working in the eating disorder community and coming to the realization that the atypical therapeutic modality of cognitive therapy, and while was not the cure all, I would say, for healing the eating disordered community, he discovered that the community was staying sicker and not getting as well. And so at some point, he created and experimented with a modality that he did with the patients that he now calls, and it's now known as internal family systems, which I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is now in the DSM book, which is the book that codes for insurance companies to cover you for diseases or whatever. It's now listed as one of the better cures, or not cures, but healing agents for anxiety, depressive disorder, internal family systems. So as Richard toyed around with this and it became a modality that helped the eating disorder community, if I'm saying this correctly, he then shared this with the other therapist, which one of them was you. If you could then address then, so as this modality developed, if I'm right on this, you were one of the, I don't want to say the guinea pigs, but you were one of the first to go, wow, this is working. And then you took that one step further than the atypical therapeutic counselors in the world, emerging it with your drama therapy, if you can kind of bring that together.
Sure. Yeah. So Richard Schwartz, Dr. Richard Schwartz, who we affectionately call Dick. So he had done a good chunk of work, I think, before coming to Castlewood, but IFS was not as widely known, certainly in North America, and not nearly as much of an international presence, because at the time it hadn't been qualified of what we call an evidence-based treatment, which an evidence-based treatment is looked at to treat diagnoses in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, the DSM. And when something is an evidence-based treatment, insurance coverage can come with that. And it's important because the idea is that an evidence-based treatment has gone through a number of levels of randomized control trials that shows it's effective. So Dick was, I would say maybe at the midpoint in his career and work when he came to Castlewood, and had a really good, strong working theory, but it hadn't had these big studies yet, and it hadn't exploded globally as it has now. So I do feel really lucky because I think now it's hard to get in to train with Dick. Like that's a sought after thing. And I got like a lot of up close and personal time getting to train directly with him, watch him work. He watched my work. And that goes into my work with drama therapy. So I became very interested in merging together drama therapy and internal family systems. And what I feel is so special is he watched that work evolve and sort of gave it his, stamp of approval, I would say, of being an effective way of combining IFS with another modality to make meaningful change. And, we got to travel all over the US and lecture about IFS, and I would talk about IFS and drama therapy. So yeah, that's my sort of short version of my story.
Well, and what I love about it, I remember one time, because you and I've done 7 now. We've done 7 retreats utilizing IFS and drama therapy with burden release. And for the audience to understand the kind of work that Laura does with IFS and drama therapy, and this is what my philosophy is. You could say something different. One weekend with Laura was equivalent to someone seeing a professional therapist every week for about 5 years. So it really, like, boom, brought you to that level of that one burden that was really stuck inside of your body, and having Laura work with you with this ability to bring it out of your body, heal from it, and then have your life unbelievably transformed. And we've had 80 people, do you believe that, Laura, go through the program?
Yeah.
And every single person said they couldn't give you a 5. They had to give you 20 stars because their life totally, totally changed. So what I loved is that, so one day I was trying to update Laura on my website, and I said to her, Laura, should I put down, are you level 1, 2, or 3? In IFS, there's level 1, a beginning level 2, and then 3 is the most advanced level in certification for IFS. And I remember your response. You laughed and said, we didn't do certification when we learned this stuff.
It wasn't, that, now you can be a certified IFS therapist and there's all these levels that didn't, the sort of more formal process didn't exist. So I guess I have the equivalent of whatever 2 years of studying with Dick is. But I speak to that piece about the retreats. I think you said something important. I don't know, we haven't done an official, research project on measuring the healing, but I would say people certainly do report out that it's a deeply meaningful event, and that creative arts therapy, specifically drama therapy, has been documented as being able to help people access work much quicker, because stories and trauma is stored in the body and it's an embodied form of psychotherapy. So we get to that work quick. And it's not just that one person gets up and does their work, but it goes back to what we were talking about, which is that one person works, so everybody's doing a piece of work. Then the next person works, everyone's doing a piece of work. So you don't come to the weekend to do one piece of work, you come to do 12 pieces of work. And that's what makes it so powerful. And I think, people do offer very generous things like, wow, I feel like I got, more done in a weekend than I did in a year of therapy. And
no, more like 5 years, Laura. And what's really nice is when you show up at the retreat, and this is something I've learned, Laura, and we just have like a few more minutes, is when I started these events with you, Laura, I remember some of the questions we would ask the attendees before they come. What do you want to work on when you're here? And I remember, myself, because I actually do my own work. I always go last at the events. Would always sit and I'd ponder, what do I want to work on? What do I want to work on? About the third event of the 7 we did, I started to realize, because story works off a story, that it worked best for me to show up with no intention. Because when one person gets up, and let's say the first person starts their work and they want to do a burden release on their eating disorder, the next person then, the 11 in the audience has now experienced recovery and eating disorder. The next person might get up and do not good enough, and they experience that in their life. The next person might do sexual abuse, and they experience, if they've had that, the next might do abandonment. The next might do, and this is for everyone out there listening, busyness, where you never sit still and you're always working. How about perfectionism? How about procrastination? How about body image? So by the time we're done, there's been 12 burdens that have been released. And so you walk out of there going, wow, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm connected with myself. It's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, and I think for people to know who are having a hard time picturing what does this look like, it's not just one person gets up at work, but people in the group are coming up to play roles and parts of one person's self. So the eating disorder part, the angry part, the sad part, right? So you're not just passively sitting on the floor ever just watching as an audience member. Everybody is a witness to the process, and everybody bears witness to one another's stories. And you may be asked to come in and embody different parts of somebody. And so again, that embodiment, yes, you're playing Sally's anger, but you're also connecting to your own unresolved anger.
And you don't have to be an actor. It's not acting. It's not acting. You're just, Laura gives you a word to say, you say it, and it helps that other person heal. Well, we're coming to the end, but we still want to know more about Laura. So I'm going to be doing a more in-depth interview with her at a later date. But I'd encourage you now to go on Braveheart workshops, I'm going to get down, workshops with an S, and register today for the event on March 12th. And we're going to be on from 1 o'clock until 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe, Laura, you're coming on around 3 in the afternoon, somewhere around that Eastern Time. And she'll be talking for 1 hour on embodiment and doing some expressive. And it's only $28.99. So March 12th, register today and join us then. And Laura, I'm just so grateful you're part of my life. I want to talk to you off camera, but I'm going to say it on camera. Put in the comments section so that Laura knows. Would you be willing to go to like Pennsylvania or Boston for 3 to 4 days and do some burden release intensive work with Laura? And if so, put yes, I want to do this. It's something I want, because we only could have 12. So put in the comments section if this is something you're interested in, so I can talk to Laura to see if we could travel towards her, because she's got the baby now, and do an event where you can release your burdens. So thanks so much, Laura.
Yeah, if you don't want to put your name publicly, you can reach out to Jill privately too, because sometimes people like a bit more privacy around these events. So yes, we're hoping to plan something as soon as it's COVID safe. And thanks for the opportunity, Jill.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us. Bye now.